For the third time in the last 4 weeks, the Steelers will take on a division leader. They beat the AFC South leading Colts. They lost to the AFC West leading Chargers. Now they will take on the NFC North leading Chicago Bears. Of course, the Steelers, division leaders in their own right, as they have been over these last several games. Thanks very much for being with us for the matchup presented by Shell Polymers alongside Missi Matthews and Matt Williamson. I'm Rob King. I want to give a shout out to former co-host of the show, Dale Lally. Today would have been his birthday.
Yeah.
Today's also the birthday of Bill Hillgrove. Shout out to Bill Hillgrove as well. Matt, much needed win for the Steelers over the Cincinnati Bengals to really kind of put the Bengals probably in the rearview mirror and to keep the game lead over the Ravens and just frankly to be playing better football.
1,000%. I really like where the Steeler defense is at right now. I think that was the story of the game. Not to mention a lot of guys that weren't counted on to be starters at the beginning of the season really stepped up in that game too.
Yeah, and Missy, just getting the trend going of trying to turn, we always talk about December football. We're getting there. Start playing some good football here.
Absolutely, and I think the LA game, bad taste in their mouths. You think about the first meeting with Cincinnati, bad taste in their mouths. So it kind of cleaned two things at once, that win over the Bengals this past Sunday.
All right, let's get to the key matchups against the Chicago Bears, who are leading the NFC North. I think a lot of people would probably be surprised by that. Big game for them, though. Packers and Lions nipping at their heels. And part of their success, Missy, as we take a look at when the Steelers have the ball, is forcing a league-high 22 opponent turnovers. 22, it's incredible, and that's something the Steelers are going to have to combat.
Absolutely, and it's crazy when you think about what the Steelers defense has done. We clearly have seen it every week, so we're a little biased, but then knowing that they're second to the Bears makes you realize that taking care of the football is important every week, but especially this week. They're just very opportunistic, as you said. 17 interceptions. They have 3 players with at least 4 or more interceptions. That's crazy when you think about it, and not that this would shock you, but they are 6-0 this season when they have 2 or more takeaways. But I liked what their head coach was saying this week. You know, we give credit to those guys. They had 2 takeaways last week against Minnesota, but rush and coverage go together, and what their big guys are able to do helps them get some of these takeaways.
And Mike Tomlin always talks about the turnover culture, but it's not always just getting turnovers, it's preventing turnovers that's part of that culture as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, it's something the Steelers defense has kind of lived and died by this season. And for these guys there, you see Terrell Edmonds' brother, Tremaine. He's one of the guys. I think he has 5.
He's one of the 4, yeah.
So, it's just incredible what they're able to do, but also, not what you want to have happen, especially when you want to possess the ball for the Steelers offense. Keep the ball, run the ball, all those things that we will get to, but you can't give the ball away.
And it's interesting here in Pittsburgh, critics of this style of play. Oh, you can't keep surviving on those turnovers. Well, the Steelers have survived to the top of the AFC South. The Bears have survived to the top of the NFC North, or AFC North.
And the Steelers are great at it year after year. And I often think on defense, creating turnovers often starts with a tremendous pass rush, a front line. And I think that's true with the Steelers, not to discredit the back 7. But the Bears don't have a dominant defensive front or a dominant pass rush. They're just extremely opportunistic.
All right, so this is the battle of the North, right? I feel like it's the Starks versus the Boltons here, Game of Thrones. But when you look at the Steelers, they want to be able to run the ball. You had a great stat last week that if this disparity with how many plays and time of possession continued, the Steelers defense would play 3 more games, 3 extra games with how much they're on the field. So running the ball would obviously help.
Absolutely. And I think the Steeler running game's in a pretty good place, but I'd like to be a little more dedicated to it. I mean, they're 12th in the league right now in run-pass percentage leaning towards the pass. I just don't think that's how they're built from the ground up, and especially in Chicago. I'm sure there'll be some form of weather. Not sure who the quarterback's going to be, obviously, and if it's Rodgers, you want to protect him a little bit more. I'd like to see more of a dedication to the ground game.
Yep, and again, that can help you not only put up more points offensively, but control the clock a little bit.
It's huge. Right? Yeah. At least the Bengals game was about even. And frankly, when you score twice on defense, that's going to influence your time possession in a bad way. So I thought they're trending the right way for the first time in terms of time possession.
Okay, so again, to recap here, we're running the ball. Steelers are running the ball beautifully. They're not turning it over. For me, look, the Bears have been dinged up in the secondary, and they're not, their best corners aren't out there. They just picked up C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's obviously a very good player. But this is the game to get DK Metcalf going again for me, guys. I mean, over the first several games of the season, 4 touchdowns in the first 5 games. Steelers off to a great start. Metcalf off to a great start, averaging over 71 yards per game receiving. Well, over the last stretch of games, he's under 40 yards per game receiving in the last 5. The Steelers are 2-3 over that stretch. It's not just because they're not getting the ball to Metcalf, but it sure does help. I mean, I totally agree, Missy, with what Matt is saying about running the football. I'm a big proponent of that. But when you run the football and start running it effectively, you've still got to be able to find DK Metcalf and maybe get some big plays.
Right, and when you can run it effectively, the other team has to respect that. So you're not one-dimensional, and clearly they are going to do their best to take DK Metcalf out of the game. That is every defense's plan, but I agree in terms of what he is able to do when he gets the ball. The yak yards, I still go back to that touchdown in Dublin. He was on a roll where I think he had 4, almost 5 games with a touchdown every game, and that is just something we have not seen lately. So I think getting number 4 going once again is good for everybody on the offense.
And it is a tough way to make a living, having to constantly run and go short passes. Some big plays to DK against a secondary that stood up pretty well in terms of interceptions, but I think can still be had.
Yeah, and I really think for the Steelers offense to take the next step, you got to have more downfield, intermediate passing. Everything can't be at the line of scrimmage. Run after the catch has been tremendous, but it's a hard way to live too.
Okay, so up next, a look at the Steelers' defense against the often explosive Bears offense when the matchup, presented by Shell Polymers, resumes.
Fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
His defense is swarming.
And it's picked off. Wow, what a catch. Get 2. Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers.
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
A week after shutting down the explosive Bengals passing attack, the Steelers get another offense that is clicking, but in a different category, and that is the Bears' rushing attack, number 2 in the league. As we welcome you back to the matchup presented by Shell Polymers with Missi Matthews and Matt Williamson. And Missy, we're going to start with your key because the Bears in the running game and the passing game with Caleb Williams, throwing it with Caleb Williams, running it with the running backs running, they create a lot of explosive plays. And we talked about munching the ball down the field. Well, it's nice when you have explosive plays, and it's nice to prevent those as well.
Yeah, I saw in their game release, they have 82 big plays. They're saying, runs of 10 or more yards, passes of 20 or more, obviously most in the league when you get to 82. Those are large chunks, but one thing that does make me feel a little bit better is just prior to doing this show, Terrell Austin and Arthur Smith spoke, and TA basically said, I think the uptick that we're seeing in our defense is because the lack of explosive plays we are allowing, and also the improved run defense as they kind of go together. But it is certainly something that they're going to have to work on. I think, too, what Caleb Williams is able to do with his legs. That is why John Rice Plumlee has been brought in on the practice squad to act as a Caleb Williams in practice to try to give the defense these looks and the trick plays too. Caleb Williams has caught a touchdown. He has another catch. So there's a lot of different things that they like to do with this offense that can, leave a very long day at the office for a defense.
And we're seeing some of these trick plays, and that is definitely part of what Ben Johnson does.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of this motion isn't just for show, Matt. It is to get the ball to the perimeter quickly. They do a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I think you can't talk about the Bears without referencing the Lions, where Johnson comes from, because this entire offseason draft, they rebuilt the interior of their offensive line, was all for Caleb Williams' development and Johnson's relationship along those lines. And there's tons of Lions overlap here. And two-headed running attack, trick plays, aggression, going for it on 4th down. They're a handful.
Yeah, and so I'm going to get to my key here, which is the running attack. So it's the Bears' offensive line. It's your point. They rebuilt it in the offseason. They went out and got Drew Dahlman. They traded for Jonah Jackson and Joe Tooney, of course, who's been to 3 straight Pro Bowls. They signed those guys to contract extensions. They have Darnell Wright, who Matt's going to talk about in a little bit, at right tackle. So they rebuilt this line with the idea that they're going to protect Caleb Williams and run the football, which also helps protect your quarterback, obviously, gets you into good down and distances. We see Monungai there with a touchdown. DeAndre Swift, here's Monungai again. But these guys, along with Caleb Williams, they have the number 2 rushing attack in the NFL. And so this is going to be a big, big challenge for the Steelers defense.
And it feels like every week we're facing, one of the top rushing attacks in the league. That's just kind of how it goes. But I do think the Steelers, not that it is not a concern, but they have really done a better job of being sound in their run defense, taking care of their gaps, guys trusting each other. Patrick Queen even talked about that following the game and understanding who's supposed to be where and what they're supposed to be doing. And guys like Derek Harmon, who are, starting to improve as a rookie and whatnot, despite all the changes on defense. But certainly not letting anybody have a good game on the ground will be important for the Steelers to get a victory.
And Matt, before we get to your keys on defense for the Steelers, this takes me back to the Steelers' ability to run the ball. Because if you let these guys be out there, if you don't control the clock, if you don't control the tempo of the game, they will try to run it down your throat. I mean, 3rd and 8, doesn't matter. They'll run the ball and go for it on 4th down. They will run it at you until you can stop them. And, of course, it would be nice if these guys were kept fresh by the Steelers being able to run the football.
1,000%. Like, I thought the Steelers' run defense was good against the Chargers, but then they're out there too long, and all of a sudden the holes get bigger, and Vidal's running through bigger holes. And it's just, too much defense is bad defense. And I think that gets reiterated over and over. But you're right. I mean, going back to the Lions and Dan Campbell, these guys are super aggressive in all facets, and they love to bury you with the run game.
So, good news. We've stopped the explosive plays. We've stopped the running game, and now they have to throw with Caleb Williams, who, of course, we know can scramble. But this brings up one of the intriguing matchups. I mean, I was looking at Hayward Tooney, but Darnell Wright is a rising star at right tackle, former first-round pick against T.J. Watt. I'll be fascinated. Will they leave him alone out there on an island? What is that matchup going to look like? And can TJ and the rest of the pass rushers get to Caleb Williams? Yeah,
and that's what's interesting is sometimes when the Steelers face higher-end right tackles, there can be mistakes made by the opponent of, we're going to let him alone against TJ. But, as you mentioned, I'm not going to say he's quite Penei Sewell, who I think is a rare right tackle. But Wright was the first-round pick, went a couple picks ahead of Broderick Jones, emerging in a great manner. They weaponize him like the Lions did Penei Sewell. They'll often leave him alone on an island. He's great in the run game. So he's really somebody to watch. And I'm sure Watt will get him some one-on-one.
And that leads us to our Immaculate Prediction Challenge, Matt. Well done. Thank you for leading us very beautifully into that. And it's live right now. And our question for you and your prediction, will TJ Watt record at least 1 sack? Yes or no? We're giving away an autographed TJ Watt jersey, a $50 Steelers Pro Shop gift card, and a classic terrible towel. So the AFC North leading Steelers will take on the NFC North leading Bears will take on and host the AFC North leading Steelers, the Battle of the North, coming up Sunday at Soldier Field. Kickoff is scheduled for 1 p.m. For Missi Matthews, for Matt Williamson, for our entire Steelers production crew, I'm Rob King. We thank you for watching this edition of The Matchup, presented by Shell Polymers.